What is an MBA?
Master's of Business Administration. It's a big degree. Actually, one of the most economically successful academic degrees that exists. Over the past several decades, growth in business master's programs worldwide has just exploded. And so, for better or worse, when adults decide that they're interested in business, the first thing they do is go to Google or Amazon, and they type in the letters MBA, and they start looking for graduate business school programs. And I think that's a mistake. I think there's a reason that people want to learn business. There's a reason that people find this area of knowledge useful. And I don't necessarily think academia is the place to start. I think there's an enormous amount of business knowledge and skill that you can develop on your own by understanding the most important concepts around what businesses are and how they work, and using them in your day-to-day life, using it in the career that you already have, using it to start something new on your own. And just a few very simple, straightforward ideas go a very long way. And so my goal in writing the Personal MBA was to explain business to someone who has no knowledge, no experience, no idea what's going on, start from absolute square zero, and explain all of the different parts of a business, how they work, how they interrelate to each other. And so you can take that knowledge and do good work, whatever it is that you do in your life or in your career.
When you say do good work, we're talking about an outcome there. What kind of outcomes do you think, if someone's just clicked on this conversation now, and we're, with the knowledge that we're going to talk about this as well as other things, what do you think the outcome for them could be if they got access to the information that you put in this book, The Personal MBA, but also from listening to this conversation?
Sure. So many of the readers of the Personal MBA over the years are early career professionals or just getting started in their career in some way, shape, or form. And I can't tell you the number of times that I've heard from someone who's like, I'm interviewing for my first job, or I am interviewing for my first big promotion. I actually have a friend who's in this position a couple of months ago. She's like, I'm a skilled professional. I've been working for a while. There's an opportunity to move into management here. And part of that interview is going to be, they're going to ask me, like, how do we improve the business that we're in? She's like, I'm trained as an engineer. I don't know about any of this business stuff. And so there's a very simple way of understanding what a business is, what a business does, the primary parts that every single business has, and how those processes interrelate. And what that knowledge gets you is the ability to take a look at any existing business and understand it in a very deep and fundamental way. So you can take a complex organization, you can break it down into parts that are very simple, straightforward, easy to understand. And then you can take that knowledge to ask a series of very useful questions. How is this business creating value? How do they attract the attention of people who might want or need what this business provides? How do they convince people to pull out their wallet or checkbook or credit card and give the business money? How does the business deliver the value that it's promising to its paying customers? And then how is the business bringing in money? How's the business spending money? And is it bringing in more than it's spending? If not, there's a problem. And more importantly, is it enough? Is it enough to make all of the time and energy and effort that's being put into the business by the owner and the employees worthwhile? And that's the essence of finance. And so understanding business in this very systematic way is a superpower. It allows you to take a look at anything, like the businesses that are happening in the world all around us. It helps you understand them. If you want to create a business, this is the foundation of every business plan that has or ever will exist, because each of these parts is universal, essential, and fundamental. You have to answer these questions. And so by having this framework in your head, going back to my friend earlier, her prep for the interview was very simple. we had a 15-minute conversation about what those things might look like. She went away and did her prep, and she went into the interview the next day, and she was offered the job. And one of the things that comes out of having this deep understanding of business, even for potentially very young or very junior people who are just getting started, understanding these things, being able to ask these questions, being able to know what's important and what's not, and think like an owner or an operator of the business, is what the owners and operators and executives and managers are looking for in terms of people to hire, people to recruit, or people to start companies. And so the more you understand how all of this works at a deeply fundamental level, the more opportunities you're going to have. I think it's a skill that's essential for every person to know and be conversant.
I think from the stats you said about how the desire to sign up to a academic MBA have increased, most people would agree.
Sure.
Because that's a reflection of demand in the market. Mm-hmm. And you're saying more and more people are going to university and trying to do a business course. Are they being scammed? Because if you think about the promise they're signing up to, even through the lens that you've just described, they're being marketed something.
Sure.
Is that institution delivering the value that they're being marketed? I.e., I guess the promise is that you'll have a better career, you'll earn more money if I go to university and do a business degree. Is that being delivered?
The answer to that is it depends. And it depends on what you want for yourself and your life. And so approximately 2/3 of business school graduates go into either management consulting or investment banking. The remainder of them, the vast majority, go into working for extremely large companies. And so if you want your life to look like that, then the promise that is very often delivered but with business school programs is you're essentially buying yourself a very expensive interview to have an opportunity at a company or a firm or an industry where that is the primary mode of getting into it. Now, the price of that interview can be very, very steep. And so the top 10 business schools, as we're talking right now, charge anywhere between $240,000 and $250,000 for a 2-year program. That's an enormous amount of money, and that's usually financed with debt. And so if you don't have for example, if you're not working for a company that is willing to sponsor your way through and pay the tuition costs, most of these degrees are financed with debt. And that debt is going to be with you regardless of whether or not you like your career, regardless of the economic situation that you graduate into, regardless of whether or not you get a job at the end of it. So you're taking on an enormous obligation, spending a lot of money, borrowing a lot of money, with a very unsure outcome at the end.
Is there any correlation between getting an MBA and long-term career success?
It's funny. This has been asked by very many people, and the answer is always no. So my two favorite studies here, Jeffrey Pfeffer and Christina Fong at Stanford University at the time, this was the early 2000s. Business school professors did a study of, do business school programs work? Because if they did, you would expect to see more successful executives, professionals having business school degrees. And what they found is no, it makes absolutely no difference. And my favorite quote was by the lead offer, Jeffrey Pfeffer. It was like, if you are good enough to get in, you are good enough to do well regardless. It's a credentialing system. It's a pre-selection. But really, like, the people who make things happen in business are people, individuals with skills and abilities and the curiosity and the drive to make things happen. You don't necessarily get that from having 3 letters after the end of your name.